Hi everyone, Dr. Eric Kaufman here, and in this tutorial we're going to look at how we can negotiate with our buyer or our supplier and just look at some general tips on negotiation. We're going to cover what you need to know before you negotiate, techniques to watch out for, what leverage is and what leverage you have and how you can use it to negotiate, and finally some general negotiation tips. Let's get started. So first of all, what you need to know. You definitely need to know your product. You can't negotiate the price of a product if you're not familiar with exactly what the product is, what the specifications are, and what the general prices are, and other information relating to your particular product. Next, know your client. If you're dealing with a bigger company, there might be less room to negotiate if they have their own set prices and they deal with large amounts of commodities. However, a smaller company might be easier to negotiate with because they need your business, and so they'll have more give and take in terms of pricing and what services they can provide you. You need to know what you can commit to. You can't negotiate unless you know how far you can personally go in terms of what you can give them and what you're trying to get from them. You need to know your price and what price you're comfortable with, whether you're purchasing or selling the product. And finally, know when it's not worth your time and effort, when the price gets too low or when the client is too difficult and you know that it's going to be more headache than reward. Know when it's not worth your time and effort. So what are some techniques to watch out for? When someone tells you that the price is non-negotiable, 99% of the time it is. For some larger companies that trade large amounts of commodities such as sugar, wheat, lentils, or any other product, the price may actually not be negotiable. However, for smaller suppliers, even of those same products, 99% of the time, the price is negotiable. When they tell you, "Let me ask my manager," a lot of the time, they will be the ones that are able to make the decision to give you a deal or to lower their price. However, they always say, "Let me ask my manager," so they can pretend that the decision to not lower their price is coming from higher up and is out of their own hands. Next is the poker face. So the buyer or the supplier will simply act like they don't really care, they don't really need your business, and so you will be more inclined to just accept whatever it is that they're offering. Next is confidence. If a buyer or a supplier is talking with a lot of confidence, and maybe it's actual legitimate confidence, but if it feels overwhelming to you, that may just be a negotiation tactic so that they show you that they have the upper hand. Silence and time are very effective negotiation tactics. If they don't speak to you for a long time, then they may be sending out a message to you that they don't really need your business, they don't really care for it, and you might be inclined to take whatever offer they've already laid out for you. And finally, the walk away. If they just walk away from the deal like they don't need it, especially with smaller suppliers, they may tell you, "Okay, then we have no deal. Thanks for your time," and just say bye. Whereas if you wait for about a week, they may call you back and try to get that deal back on board. They're simply pretending that they don't have interest in the deal just to get you to accept whatever offer they've already made. So let's look at leverage. Leverage is basically your advantage over whoever you're negotiating with, and it allows you to negotiate the price on your own terms as opposed to on their own terms. So what are some leverage points? First of all is if you have a scarce product. When I first started trading, I was trading with a grain called teff, an Ethiopian grain called teff, and due to new laws in Ethiopia, the export of the product was very limited. However, I found a supplier that could supply this grain and export it legally, and so I had a product that was difficult to obtain, and I used that as leverage to increase my price over what the buyer was looking to purchase for or what they were already purchasing for by a few $100s per ton. Next is high purchase volume or supply volume. So it can be your leverage that your supplier can supply the buyer with the amount that they require, whereas other suppliers may not be able to. Or if you're representing a buyer, it might be that the buyer purchases very large volumes, and so a supplier is more inclined to do business with them. Next is that you are the only American or Canadian or local supplier. So even if you're just working as a broker, seeing that your company is registered in the United States is a huge plus and makes businesses much more inclined to do business with you, even if you're sourcing a product from China or from Africa. Next is cheaper cost. If you can provide a product at a cheaper cost than the competition, that's your leverage, and that's the reason that a buyer should select you over another. The availability of the product. Once again, if it's a scarce product, they won't be able to purchase it from anyone else, and so you can increase your prices because of the limited availability. And finally, you've got nothing to lose. Hopefully, if you're taking this course, you're not dependent on income from the import and export world, and so you have nothing to lose. You can employ all of the tactics that we spoke about that negotiators will use against you, and you can employ them against them, such as the walkaway. If you have nothing to lose, then if you walk away from a deal, you lose nothing. Whereas if somebody you're doing business with does have something to lose, they do require the income for their company and for their personal salary, then you have leverage over them. And if we just go back up to the techniques to watch out for, you yourself should be using these techniques when negotiating with a supplier and with a buyer to achieve more favorable terms for yourself. Now moving on, we're just going to look at some tips generally you need to know for negotiating. So first of all, decide on your break-even price. Find out the price that you're looking for, whether you're buying or selling, where this deal no longer makes sense for you and you're not profiting. Next, never feel rushed. It's a negotiation tactic to rush you to get you to accept their deal. Never feel rushed, always take your time, and know that there are hundreds of other deals you can be making, and so you do not need this one, so don't rush into it. Plan the negotiation ahead of time. Know what prices are good for you, what packaging and shipping terms are good for you, and just generally know how you want to play the negotiation before going into it. Next, be ready and willing to walk away. This is not just one of the most powerful tactics, but also important to be able to do so that you don't get yourself in a deal that's not beneficial to you and beneficial to the other side. Don't be ridiculous. Don't give them an insanely high price if you're a seller or an insanely low price if you're a buyer. Try to be very reasonable. Next, shop around and have proof. So if you're looking for a price from a particular supplier, you want to show that you've looked at the prices of other suppliers and show them that they're cheaper than them, and so that they reduce their own prices for you. Use silence. We've already spoken about how this can be an effective method. Offer better payment terms. So for example, you may be able to offer some of the payment in advance, and so the supplier may lower their price for you as a result. Ask for additional value that doesn't cost the other side much. So you may ask for an additional quantity of whatever it is the product that you're purchasing is free of charge. So for example, you may ask for 5% more of the product as opposed to asking for a 10% discount on the product, as that is easier and cheaper for the supplier to provide you with, and it doesn't cost them much, but for you, it benefits you greatly. Next, don't get personal or take anything personally. Nothing ruins a deal like any of the sides taking anything personally or trying to get personal with the other. Stay calm, stay cool and collected, even if the other side is trying to get personal. Next, be reasonable. Negotiating is about giving and taking. So if you're just trying to take the whole time, then you won't be able to reach a deal. Be reasonable, understand what the other side wants, understand what you want, and then reach a deal that's beneficial to both. And finally, be honest. Everybody can detect whether or not you're being honest with them, and they like to do deals with honest people. Thank you.